ROOAKHPTAH. Peace, family. So in today's video, I'm going to be dealing with what is called the science of sciences and the science in sciences. And what sparked this video was a previous video I had made called NUWAUPU Study, how to teach the foundation of NUWAUPU, to beginners. Got a lot of comments, positive, all were positive, but it sparked a conversation through Facebook Messenger with a brother. And so I'm going to expound a little bit more on why NUWAUPU was considered to be the science of sciences and the science in sciences, and what the science of sciences and the science in sciences actually mean. Now, when you go back to ancient Egyptian doctrine, a lot of people don't know that the deities of ancient Egypt represented a plethora of different things as it related to various different knowledge systems and subject matter. For example, one aspect of the deities could have been cosmological. Another aspect of the deities could have been psychological, teaching spiritual psychology. And so when you go back to Heliopolis, right, there were two main deities that represented the science of sciences and sciences. Re, which is one, and Tehuti. Re represented the empirical method of the science of sciences, which is the circle, right? It represented the sun, the male, or scientific method. And Tehuti represented the mind, or the rational, or the moon. And, the moon represents the female or the square. And so in sacred geometry, they have something called squaring the circle. And I'm going to show you the relevance to squaring the circle with these two particular methodologies of information processing and how that relates to us as a people. All right, so before I go on, I'm going to give you the unification of the science of sciences and the science in sciences in ancient Egypt as it related to the deity. So as previously stated, Tehuti and Re were two different deities when you split the two concepts. But those concepts was united in the Memphite theology under the deity Ta, or Ptah, some people pronounce, either or, same being. Okay, so I'm gonna jump right to it. All right, so when we speaking about the science of sciences, right, you're talking about scientific method, or the empirical method, or the circle, or the male, right? And that is representative of 360 degrees. When we're talking about the science in sciences, we are talking about the mathematical method or the rational method, because math is synonymous, the mathematical method is synonymous with reasoning. So the mathematical method, the square, it represents the female or rationalism or the mind. Again, as I previously stated, in these two different theologies, the Heliopolis theology and the Memphite theology, the only differences were that in the Heliopolis theologies, there were two deities that represent the two processes. That was unified, right, under the Memphite theology with Ta. And if you go back, there is an ancient Egyptian word called Semtawi, right? And it speaks about the unification of the two lands. The symbolism in that is the unification of the science of sciences and the science in sciences, or the empirical method and the rational method of information processing, which was the actual science of God, right? So let's jump right to it. So in the science of sciences, you have four parts. Right? And these are the order that they go in. And always remember that when you're dealing with the science of sciences and the science in sciences, because I'm going to put the diagrams on the computer for y'all, it goes counterclockwise, right? And you'll see that when I get you to a point where you can unite or square the circle, you unify the two concepts and square the circle, you'll see exactly how the mind actually works with information processing and how it alternates from scientific method, mathematical method, scientific method, mathematical method, and how they corroborate with each other in a cyclical way. So the four parts to the science of sciences, or the empirical method, is experience, theory, hypothesis, and experiment. The four parts that represents the science in sciences, or the rational method, is comprehension, analysis, synthesis, and results. Now what happens is, in the mind, right? When we get ready to process information, again, and I stated this before, we must first experience that information, right? And the only way that we as physical human beings can experience information is by using our physical senses, right? So I'm gonna define information clearly for you in science, because once when you understand the definition or the true meaning or interpretation of information in science, you'll kind of understand that anything that the senses has the ability to detect is in fact information. So science has various different etymologies. All right. So the first that we deal with is scire, right? S-C-I-R-E, and it's a Latin word. And it means to cut, to split, to separate, to cleave, right? So on and so forth. But it also has its roots in Proto-Indo-European as skei, S-K-E-I, right? As well as scientia, which means knowledge, right? Or to know. So by etymological definition, science can mean knowledge, to know, or to separate and to split. And the reason why it is considered to be something that's separated, distinguished, or differentiated is because inside of the philosophy of science as it was taught in ancient Egypt, you have four parts: the nature of science, right? The noology of science, the ontology of science, and the epistemology of science. We're only going to deal with the nature of science as it relates to that definition. I'll do another video about the philosophy, the entire philosophy. Okay, so the nature of science, when we talk about the nature of something, we're talking about the qualities or the characteristics, right? Therefore, science has two characteristics: the known and the unknown, right? So the whole point of the information process is to be able to make the unknown known. Now, known and unknown can also be representative of finite and infinite, right? It also can be representative of the triple stages of darkness, because in the triple stages of darkness, from a philosophical perspective of the science of sciences and the science in sciences, represents coming from the darkest stage all the way to the light. Right? And so you got unknown unknowns, that's the darkest, and that literally translates as I don't know that I don't know. The unknown knowns, that means I don't know that I do know. You have known unknowns, that means I know that I don't know. And you have known knowns. That's when you come into the light, where you've actually squared the circle and made something unknown known. So when you get down to the actual information process cycle, as it relates to both methods, what happens is squaring the circle only means that you create the methodology in a form or fashion that allows you to go to each point of the cycle to be able to make something unknown known, right? And so we'll start from that particular process. So we start from the point of experience, which information is received by the senses into the mind, right? So then the mind then uses that information for comprehension through analogous reasoning, because when we comprehend something, we use analogies, similes, and metaphors to be able to draw the conclusion as to what that thing that we experienced is, to give us the ability to understand how to draw the proper conclusion on labeling it. And we spoke about language and labeling things for the purpose of us being able to express that we comprehend something. So the mind then uses comprehension and analogous reasoning to understand, comprehend, and make sense of the information that has been experienced, right? Then those analogies, metaphors, similes, parables, mathematic objects, mythologies, abstractions that were created in the mind for the purpose of comprehension then becomes theories, which the mind can process, right? Okay, so the mind then begins to analyze the theoretical abstractions using inductive reasoning, and they speak about this in ancient Egyptian philosophy, right? To see how the information can be used to benefit the mind. From the mental analysis or decomposition of the information, the mind then generates multiple hypotheses by way of brainstorming and divergent thinking, right? Okay, so once when the mind actually starts to use brainstorming and divergent thinking about the identity of, the use of, the cause or effect of the information, right? It then uses abductive reasoning to select the most probable choice from the set of hypotheses. The mind then begins using convergent thinking to come up with ways to synthesize what is known about the empirical world with which, the hypothesis and the rational world of the mind actually came about. This mental, I want to say synopsis, but it's not synopsis. This mental synthesis enables the ability to use the information experienced with the new created hypothesis by way of experimentation. After the information is tried in experimentation, the mind then determines a result. And from that result, experience takes place again, and that cycle continues. So basically, this is just a rough overview of the science of sciences and the science in sciences. All they're saying is that through experience, comprehension, theory, analysis, hypothesis, synthesis, experiment, and results, those processes takes place every moment of your life that you live and breathe and think, right? And that through this comes about it should come about the proper conclusion as to how to do something, when to do something, where it should be done, and why you are doing it. So I'm gonna end this video. I was only gonna make a real short video about the scientific and mathematical method. If y'all have any more questions, please hit me up. Peace.